Welcome back to division. We're in module 4.3, and today we're going to speak about what happens if you get an exponent that's the number 0. So let's talk a minute. Remember, we're doing division. So let's go back to arithmetic. What happens if I asked you guys, what is 5 divided by 5? Well, if I had $5 and I divided it into 5 groups, everybody would get $1. So we all know 5 divided by 5 is 1, which means anytime you divide a number by itself, your quotient's always 1. Well, if that's true in arithmetic, it's also true in algebra. So if dividing the same number makes a value of 1, then dividing the same letter variable also makes a value of 1. So if I say what's A divided by A, we know the answer is going to be 1 because we're dividing the same exact letter. If I say X divided by X, my answer is 1. Now, let's talk. When I write in algebra A divided by A, we've learned a rule. We learned from the previous video, when you divide the variables, letters in algebra, you're supposed to do what? You're supposed to subtract their exponents. So let's think about this. If I have A divided by A, well, first of all, let's talk about what are the exponents. Well, if I just write good old A, the exponent's understood to be 1. And if I just write in the denominator good old A, the exponent's understood to be 1. And the rule is when you divide, you're supposed to subtract those exponents. Well, if the exponent is 1 and 1 and I subtract it, what do I get? I get a 0. Now, we don't write A to the 0. We know because we divided A by A, the same thing, the answer should be 1. So now, guys, what we have done, guys and gals, is we've come up with a rule. Remember, we've been dealing with exponents now for many, many videos. We've dealt with exponents that are 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. We have yet to see an exponent of 0 because an exponent of 0 technically doesn't make sense. Remember, we understand, what does 3 cubed mean? 3 cubed means 3 times 3 times 3. We understand 3 squared. 3 squared means 3 times 3. We understand 3 to the first. That just means 3. Because we have learned when you have an exponent, its job is to tell you how many times to multiply the base. Well, if I have 3 to the 0, that doesn't fit the definition, the rule. Because how can you write the base 3 0 times? So you have to think about where can you get a 0 exponent even from. And the only place a 0 exponent ever came from was if you divided the exact same base. If you divide A by A, the exponents are 1 and 1. You would subtract them, get an exponent of 0. And you know when you divide the same amount, the answer is always going to be 1. So now we have an algebra rule. When we divide and we subtract exponents, if we get an exponent of 0, that meant we divided the same amount, which means the answer is always 1. So anytime you see a 0 exponent on a base, doesn't matter what the base is. It doesn't matter if the base is a number, say 7, or if the base is a letter, say B. If you have a base and you have an exponent of 0, what is always your answer? It is 1. That is a memorized fact you need to know. So what we're going to do in our video coming up is we're going to apply that new definition. See you then.